Hi, my name is Robert Palmer, and I will be doing my Great Recession U.S. History interview assignment. Here with me today is my dad. Please state your name, your age, and when you were born.
Well, my name is Doug Palmer. I'm 50 years old, and I was born in 1966.
Okay. First question is, how was finding/keeping a job during the Great Recession like?
The Great Recession of 2008.
Yes.
Okay. Um, I had a job in 2008 when the recession occurred, and the company that I was with cut back the hours because the business had taken a downturn. So instead of working 40 hours a week, I only worked 32 hours a week, and they paid me less.
Okay. Um, could you tell someone who wouldn't know what the Great Recession was? What would you define as the Great Recession?
Well, the Great Recession was a time and a period here in the United States when there was um, the mortgage boom went bust. So people who had homes and had gotten mortgages from the bank, um, they were given loans and they were given mortgages for property that wasn't as valuable as the banks said. And so a lot of people defaulted on their loans and the property wasn't worth as much. And so there were a lot of people losing their jobs, especially here in the auto industry around Detroit. Most people who live in southeastern Detroit work in one way or the other for the automotive plants, and the big three nearly went bankrupt.
Okay. Did you have any spending habits? If so, what were they, and how did the Great Recession affect those spending habits?
Well, the only spending habits I had was buying food and paying my bills. There were no luxury items. There were no vacations. So you simply, you know, you only spent money as needed, and you we dove into our savings accounts.
How did you discover that our nation was facing a severe economic situation?
Well, I felt it in my bank book. I saw it in my 401k, and I saw it on the news every morning. I also saw it in every newspaper that I read.
Could you give any specific examples?
Well, I mean, we had neighbors and friends who were losing their houses. We actually lost our house. Strange case. The bank actually gave it back to us because it wasn't hardly worth any money. But no, our friends and our family, they were all suffering along with us, and people just tried to make the best of it.
What happened family-wise during the Great Recession to your parents, to brothers or sisters?
Nothing much because I have one brother, your uncle Jack, and he doesn't really require the need to work. They're self sufficient. And my parents, my father's dead, your grandpa Larry, and my mom, your grandma Sue, she's retired. So the recession didn't really hit them all that much because their retirement plans had already been taken care of, so they weren't affected by the recession.
Um, in the long run, do you think the Great Recession has changed you at all, or anyone you know?
It's changed me from the sense that I no longer, well, we lost almost all of my retirement benefits through the Great Recession. It's kind of weird calling it the Great Recession, by the way, because when you live through it, you don't consider it all that great. But no, you don't take things for granted. When you get a chance to have a vacation, you have a couple extra bucks in your pocket. Um, you you appreciate it a little bit more.
What do you believe is our nation's greatest economic concern present day?
I still think that there's a huge bubble. I think that there's another recession probably that's going to come, but we're probably a little ways away from it. About the housing crisis, we're reliving some of the same things that happened previous to 2008. I think we're doing that again. we're lending money out a little bit too quickly and too easily to people who really can't afford it. So I could see another bubble looming in the horizon.
Could you elaborate that on a little bit? Like,
Well, I mean, like I said, I read the newspapers and I look at the internet and I just, the financial papers and whatnot, and um, I think that there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, especially in Europe, and that all affects global economies. We live in a global world, global economy, where things that happen in Europe directly affect us. The presidency, the election that we just had, that's going to affect our financial futures. The things that are going on in Asia, with Korea, with China, these all affect us, directly. And so the next couple of years, it'll be interesting to see what happens financially.
okay, well, thank you for talking with me today in this interview.
Well, thank you for having me.
This has been U.S. History interview assignment completed.